Great.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I feel I need to answer some of the questions that have been raised by members of council. I think the first one that what concerns me is that members of council have talked about how the staff report does not talk about the bike lanes, when in fact, if you were to read the environmental study, you would find in B1 streetscape improvements with boulevard widening and on-street bike lanes. In fact, the report that you received in your offices 2 weeks ago talks about bike lanes. They have been there in the report. And they arrived in the report through the EA process of people coming and speaking out at the two public meetings that were held in 2008. And prior to the ones that we held in 2005 and 6, which was the traffic study, yes, yet another heavy tome of an outside engineering firm that did the consultation on traffic, which said we could take out the middle lane and not adversely impact significantly the traffic. But this report does capture sentiment that came out in the public meetings concerning bicycling. And for me, it was a rather personal process I went through in advocating this when I came to committee. And that is, I worked on the issues of Jarvis Street over the last 10 years. But recently, members of council, you'll recall that we worked on Bloor Street and the transformation on Bloor Street that the BIA has advocated. And there were people who thought it was important to put bike lanes on Bloor Street in the Yorkville area. And I didn't think that was appropriate because what we were doing on Bloor Street at that area was creating a destination. There's probably more retail on a block of Bloor than there is in the whole length of Jarvis. There's hardly any retail on Jarvis, but we were creating a location, a destination on Bloor. But Jarvis Street operates very differently. Jarvis Street is a traffic corridor, but it shouldn't be a traffic corridor for one user. It should be a traffic corridor for pedestrians, for cyclists, for transit, and for the car. And that was the process that I went through, is that these are two different streets. They're serving two different populations. Although they're both arterials, they are trying to achieve different ends. Jarvis Street has been, and as I will paraphrase one of my colleagues on council, we murdered Jarvis Street. We violated Jarvis Street back in the 50s. A beautiful, leafy, mansioned a row that was, there is nothing in Toronto that came anywhere near to what Jarvis Street was. And then it was handed over to one use, to the car driver. One use. The pedestrian was left, the pedestrians were left with a motorway to walk beside. I have constituents today who are avid cyclists who will not cycle on Jarvis Street because it currently is unsafe. Councillor Stintz referred to the 3 TTC buses, the express buses that ply up and down Jarvis in the morning. I think there's only one in the afternoon. Why isn't there better use of that street for transit when between 1996 and 2011, the population on the east and west side of Jarvis Street will go up from 18,000 to 28,000. We have significantly increased the population living in that neighborhood. And that population is not being serviced by the TTC. You can't get on that bus when it stops on Jarvis. So what this exercise is that we went through with the people who live on Jarvis is to try and create a complete street. Not just a transit way, not just a car rally. What we needed was a street that served the bicyclist, the pedestrian, and all those I've left out. We needed to be able to serve the whole of the population. And there are changes that occurred. When we first worked on this, it was a heritage study. And we do have $900,000, which is accrued interest, for heritage interpretation on Jarvis Street. We will be able to do that interpretation. We will be able to improve the street furniture, and we will be able to improve the sidewalks on the east side. The development opportunities on the east side of Jarvis will allow us to take more land so that we can increase the sidewalks. So we do have that opportunity, and that's where we started. But as we went through consultation, as we found that we could close that middle lane and not have significant impact. And I just want to remind members of council, we're talking about 2 minutes. What is 2 minutes? The 2 minutes seems significant, except if you're coming from North York or if you're coming from Scarborough, what's 2 minutes on a 40-minute drive? It's not 2 minutes on 8, right? It really is not that significant in a commute. Somehow, some people think that's significant. But what we did through this process of consultation is find that there was a group that wasn't being considered and that we needed to think about including the whole population, everyone in this. Now there are bike routes that do intersect with Jarvis. There's a College, Gerard, and quite frankly this is a little bit of deja vu for me, because in 1993 I had the fight on College Street where they didn't want to have bicycle lanes. And there's a restaurateur that decided to write up names in a petition and just pull them out of the telephone book. And we had to scrub it and come back a couple of months later and bring it forward. But we have the College and Gerard bicycle lanes, we have the Shooter lanes, and we have the Wellesley Street lanes. So there are connections that Jarvis Street will have. It will integrate into existing services that are for the neighborhood. The ratepayer associations that exist in this neighborhood on Jarvis Street are thrilled to see the change. Are they as happy as they were to see the streetscape improvement? No, but they are bicycle users. They do see the value of making it more accessible for bicycle use. So there is, I think, broad support in the community for this change. If you look at there's an interesting communication. I gather I have an extension till.
Yes, moving extension.
Rob Granitstein, in an article about the issue around driving, ends it with, but when you do move strongly, swiftly, and consider all users of the road, not just the ones you favor. That was Rob Granitstein in the Sun, and I think that's an endorsement of what we're doing here on Jarvis Street. It's about the pedestrian, it's about the cyclist, it's about the transit user, and it's about the car user. Everyone is getting recognized in the work that we've done, that the staff have done on Jarvis Street. If you need any more convincing that this is the right direction to go, and you should look at page 26 in the official plan. In a mature city like Toronto, the emphasis has to be on using the available road space more efficiently to move people instead of vehicles, and on looking at how the demand for vehicle travel can be reduced in the first place. Reducing car dependency means being creative and flexible about how we manage our urban growth. That is in our official plan. That is our official statement on this issue. And I believe the staff's work through the feasibility study and the EA have determined that the best way to meet our goals in the official plan are to put the bicycle lanes in and do the streetscape improvement that we want to do. And in the end, this will be a better street. And unfortunately, it won't get us to where it was in 1920, but it will be a street I think we would be proud of again. Thank you.
Thank you.